Hello everyone. Uh, in today's lecture, we are going to discuss fundamental concept of multiprocessing. Now, what is multiprocessing? Multiprocessing tells that when multiple processors get involved, then that is known as multiprocessing. Now, what do you mean by multiprocessing? Once again, what we have picked, multiple processors get involved. Now the thing is, suppose in my system I have four processors. Now, how to send, and suppose I have eight processes. Now, how to send these eight processes in these four processors? How to decide that which process should move into which processor? Then, suppose I have sent four processes in X1 processor, then how to schedule those four processes, how they will run in this processor. So for running n processes in one processor, we have done so many CPU scheduling algorithms. We have already completed it. Now today we will focus that how to divide number of processes into different processors, which is a concept of load balancing. Why we require load balancing? The simple reason, suppose I have eight processes and four processor, and I have sent seven processes in one processor, one process in second processor, and two processors are idle. Then I am not utilizing these two processors. Hence, the overall effectiveness of my system will be degraded. So, how to organize these processors? To organize these processors, we have two type of structures. One is asymmetric multiprocessing, and the one is symmetric multiprocessing. So let's pick one by one that how symmetric and asymmetric works. Now, first of all, asymmetric multiprocessing. So I am taking once again the same example that I have four processors. Now, what is problem here? Problem is that how to send number of processes into different processors. Inside those processors, definitely by deploying certain CPU scheduling mechanism, I can execute those processes. But how to divide processes into different processors? So how to perform that thing, and who will perform? Definitely OS will perform. But OS requires certain computation, means it requires certain CPU to compute that which processes, which different variety of processes should be sent to which processor. So one simple way is that what I'll do, I'll make one CPU, suppose this first CPU, I'll make it master. And why I am calling it master? That overall decision will be taken, or computation for overall decision will be taken on this first CPU. And this CPU will tell that how to divide processes between these three CPUs. So computation of decision will be handled by one CPU, and overall processing will be done by other pieces. So this will be as a governor. This is governing overall scenario or overall system. So this becomes master and all becomes slave. It's just like or uh, server. I'm sure you all are aware of server and client. So what we have one server and we have so many other systems who get the information and permission from the server, and they execute different things, functionalities with respect to the server. So server is the main governing body. It provides different sequences to different processors or different systems, and on the basis of those sequences, these systems act. So same thing is here, that I am going to make one server and all other will be client. This server will be responsible for taking decisions. So in other sense, I can say that operating system will be loaded into this particular CPU or work on this CPU and will take decision, and on the basis of decision it will distribute processes into different processors. So this type of structure is known as asymmetric multiprocessing. So in once again, if we'll do quick review, what is asymmetric multiprocessing? Asymmetric multiprocessing says that one processor will be responsible for taking decisions, and it will distribute processes, or it will distribute load among all other processors for execution. So that is known as asymmetric multiprocessing. Now, since one processor is responsible for distribution, so only at one end I need to deploy a certain mechanism through which I can, or certain CPU scheduling algorithm, through which I can identify that which kind of load I need to distribute with other CPUs. Now, the second concept is little bit tricky, that is symmetric multiprocessing. In short form, that is known as SMP. Now, symmetric multiprocessing says that nobody is client and nobody is server. Now, why? So, simple reason is that if you have deployed one server and all other clients, it's quite simple to attack. Now what I'll do, I'll attack on server, or I'll attack on master processor, and if I'll get successful, then I can block or hack this master processor, and all other processor will become idle. Why? Because they only take permission from master. So if master is not acting anything or not providing any information or instruction, they all will be idle and they will not perform anything. Hence, overall utilization becomes zero. Although we have four processors who can perform things, but since master processor is not available, all processor will be idle. So that is the major disadvantage of symmetric multiprocessing, and that's why we got another architecture that is known as, that was a disadvantage of asymmetric multiprocessing, and that is the main reason we got symmetric multiprocessing. Now, symmetric multiprocessing says that if I have four processor, then nobody is master and nobody is slave. Everyone is responsible for their own working, and each and everyone are equal in terms of power. But if both are equal and if all are equal and all can work independently, then how load balancing will be performed? Who will decide that which processor will have how many number of processes? In master slave, it was quite easy, that server or master will decide everything and all other will follow. Now here, since all are in same level, who will decide? So for decision, definitely we require certain mechanism. And here comes the mechanism of migration. Migration means movement. So there are two ways or two types of migration. One is push migration, another one is pull migration. Now, what is push and pull migration, and why we require migration? Migration means how to send the processes into different CPUs. So, what could be the mechanism which any system can follow? So, push migration says that suppose I got 100 processes and I have 5 processors. Now, each processor will have, ideally should have 20 processes in each so that they can accommodate all 100 processes. But what happened that at the start, this processor got active, and what it had done, it had picked, suppose its range is 60 processes it can accommodate at a time, so it had suppose picked 50 processes. And this particular has picked suppose 20 and all other had picked 10 processes. So overall, since nobody is handling the equilibrium between all processors, so uh, it depends upon individual processor how they are going to acquire the processes. So suppose in this way they got processes. Now, since load of this processor is quite heavy, so what it can do, that it will identify or it will check the load of other processors. And since it have identified that all processors have very less load, what it can do, it will push certain processes to different processors. So what it will do, it will send 10 process here, 10 process here, and 10 process here. So once it had sent 10 processes, it had actually 50 processes. So what happened? Now it have 20 processes and all are having 20 processes. So this processor or one processor has identified the load of other or requested that please tell me the load of yours, and on the basis of load of others, it will send or push certain processes to the next processor. That is known as push migration. I am migrating, or processor is migrating processes from one processor to another processor by pushing processes from one processor to another processor. So that is known as push migration. Now the next one is pull migration. Now why pull migration is required? So let's suppose that one processor is simply idle. Suppose I have four processor. This processor, each and every processor have max accommodation range is 100. So this processor is having 40. This is having 20. This is having 20, and this is currently sitting on 0. Now, since maximum range is 100, so definitely this processor is quite comfortable to hold 40 processes. Similarly, this can hold 20, this can hold 20. Now, this processor is purely idle. And if I am going to use push migration, nobody is going to push processes into this particular processor. Why? Because this processor is quite comfortable to handle 40 processes. But do we utilize all processor effectively, or we can further reduce the time of execution by sending certain processes to the other processor? So the answer is yes. If somehow I can send 20 processes here then I can execute more efficiently. So how to perform it? Because this processor is not going to push processes here. It is push is only utilized when somebody thinks that I am overburdened. So it will send its burden to other processors. But this in this particular situation, this is not overburden. So how to handle the situation? Here comes the pull operation or pull migration. Pull migration says that processor will check that currently I am uh, less burdened. So what I can do, I can pick and pull certain processes from other processors. So it will pull 20 processes from this processor and bring it to uh, execute in its own processor. So that is known as pull migration, picking processes from other processors. So in this way, full migration can be utilized. So what is currently in use? Which kind of system is in current uses? Is it push migration or pull migration? So it is a combination of both things because both have their own advantages and disadvantages. So generally, combination of both things is utilized. But once we discuss migration, there is one more concept which we need to focus. That is processor affinity. Now, what is processor affinity and how it impacts with respect to multiprocessing? Processor affinity says that suppose I am taking one example that how load balancing can actually reduce your performance. Sometimes you will find out that I'm not sure that whether you guys have done this thing or not, but practically you can achieve this thing that when I have utilized a single processor for executing any specific task, suppose it has taken 10 unit of time. But if I had deployed that same task in multiprocessor architecture, it took 12 unit of time. So instead of reduction of time, it actually enhanced its time. So how this happened? And here comes the concept of processor affinity. So let's take one example. Suppose I have four processors. Now in this processor, I have 10 processors. Now suppose what happened that one process I want to send to this processor due to any specific thing, either push migration or pull migration. Now, whenever I want to send the process to any specific processor, what I need to do, each and every processor have associated registers where that process is having all the information. So if I want to send the P1 process from X1 to X2, what I need to do? First of all, I need to copy this particular information to registers of X2. Then I need to delete all the information from here so that due to redundancy, we should not get any overriding or any error. Uh, so what I need to do, I need to delete this thing. So before starting the execution in X2, what I need to do, I need to populate my entry into register of X2 and I need to delete all the information from this thing and further need to update all the information into the PCB process control block. Don't you think that this all processing will take time? Now suppose this process has executed 90% of its execution, although I should not take exact numbering, but for the sake of understanding, I am taking it. Now you have sent that into the X2. So there is a possibility that the time it has taken to for the movement, it it should get completed in x1, but you have sent it to the x2. Now, before it can execute, you have again sent to send this particular process to x3. So don't you think that suppose only 10 unit of time was remaining and the moment takes 5 unit of time and you have switched that process 10 times. So actually 50 unit of time you had taken extra, but still that 10 unit of execution is not yet completed. And that is the major concept, and that is the foundation of load balancing. That sometimes because of load balancing, your time can get increased, and to deal with that particular thing we get the concept of processor affinity. It says that if any process is associated with any processor, do not remove that process from processor. So it's a pure contradiction of load balancing. Means processor affinity is inversely proportional to load balancing. It is purely inversely proportional. If I'll focus on processor affinity, my load balancing will get disturbed. If I'll focus on load balancing, my processor affinity will get disturbed. So what I need to do? I need to take care of both things. That my We need to focus that if I got certain processes which are almost got executed, then I should not send those processes into any other processor. Otherwise, I can send those processes into other processor. So that is overall concept of processor affinity. Now, I hope you already got the concept of load balancing and uh, exact opposite concept of processor affinity and why both are required in the system. You cannot rely on only one thing. So that is purely how to balance load between different processors. Now, once we move into the inside that, okay, now I have completed the balancing, I have sent certain processes into different processors. Now, how to schedule those processes? So definitely for scheduling, we are going to utilize the same algorithm which we have done once we had picked the CPU scheduling algorithm, that is first come first serve, priority, round robin, shortest job first, multi-level queue, multi-level feedback queue. So I can deploy any concept or any architecture for scheduling processes inside the processor. So that is overall concept of multi-processor scheduling. So that is all for today. Thank you.